Welcome to the Women's Money Wisdom Podcast. I'm Melissa Joy, a certified financial planner and the founder of Pearl Planning. My goal is to help you streamline and organize your finances, navigate big money decisions with confidence, and be strategic in order to grow your wealth. As a woman, you work hard for your money, and I'm here to help you make the most of it. Now, let's get into the show. Just a quick note before we dive in. The information that we share is meant to educate and inspire, not to serve as personalized financial advice. Everyone's situation is unique, so be sure to consult with your own financial professional for guidance that fits your life. And just so you know, the opinions shared in this podcast are my own and those of my guest, and they don't necessarily represent those of any organizations that I'm affiliated with. For more important disclosures, please go to our webpage at pearlplan.com. Now, let's get started. Welcome back to the Women's Money Wisdom Podcast. I'm thrilled today to be joined by a creator, someone who's making a new space, a new community. And it's all about space for moms, but I think this episode really covers identity. It covers some of the tough choices that we make as individuals and families throughout a lifetime. And just an interesting new idea in a nonprofit format. So we're going to talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of that as well. Ariel Wan is a community building and marketing professional for nearly 20 years. She's located out of Ann Arbor, Michigan, and she founded and runs a 501c3 nonprofit organization called the Mamas Network. They are a support community dedicated to making sure that no woman or mom feels alone in their journey through motherhood. Ariel, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I'm so glad to have you here. And I've been watching on socials, you building this Mamas Network. I know that, well, you can talk about it, but you're really looking to be there, especially for newer moms or, when you're in that blocking and tackling zone with younger kids. And I've aged out of that, but I see it all the time with my colleagues at work who we have in the office. Mothers of 3-month-olds all the way up to grown and flown adults. So tell me a little bit about the Mamas Network and how it came to be and why you're inspired to support this community.
Yeah, so the Mamas Network, I formally started it just actually a year ago in March of 2024. And it was a result of just being exasperated around the lack of formal support for women with children. Um, I used to attend an in-person mom support group that unfortunately, because of COVID, and funding declines, it stayed virtual and they were not able to bring it back in person because their primary focus is on all of the other issues and problems that women face. And this specific journey in that point in your life is just like a very small point, but to my world and other parents who just entered parenthood, this is all of their lives. This is a new condition of our life that um, to this day still has no formal support. And I think it's because previously you kind of relied on your family, your network of relatives, your village nearby, but now because we're so transient and people are moving or more mobile, we are leaving our traditional villages of people that we kind of grow up with, and now we are kind of like isolated and alone. I think COVID really enhanced that. And I just kind of I was just kind of tired of there not being any support and the narrative still being that, you need to give up your life for your child. You need to put everything aside for them. And then your mental health is struggling and you're alone. But then what I'm here to say is everyone feels this way. It is completely normal. And if you talk to other people, you'll feel so much better about it. And then you can create your own village and figure out life as parents together. And so that's kind of like the basic foundation of what basically a support community is and what I want to create with the Mamas Network.
That loneliness, a couple things come to mind. One, I remember being a working mom of young kids dropping off at the beginning of daycare, and I had a commute at the time when my kids were um, before school daycare age of an hour. So I really wouldn't be there for the pickup. And I just remember there wasn't that network. Of course, I had friends like, in text chains, but I didn't have the same community that you have if you have time for the moms groups and things like that are kind of set aside for those who are staying home with the kids. And so, that having something that is um, a physical location or planned activities, but also is welcoming to people who are staying home with the kids, but also working people can be so impactful to give that space for you to relate to other people going through your same circumstances.
Yeah, and the while a lot of the supportive services are geared towards new parents or parents of young kids, the Mamas Network welcomes moms and parents from all stages of parenthood. The idea with this nonprofit is like we are here for you, and like we understand that like being moms, being dads, like life is nuts. And sometimes you might not respond to a text message in months, but that doesn't mean the relationship is over.
Mhm.
And we understand that. And so we're just here for you. So when you are free, when you have that time, like know that there is somewhere for you to go, that you will be with good people who will understand life and who you don't have to apologize constantly to, because like we all get it. And it's just
Mhm.
there's something really special to go into like a third space where you walk in and people just like understand, and you don't have to like constantly explain yourself or apologize or feel on edge or unease that your kid might be running around and being disruptive, because everyone who's there experiences that, and everyone's totally chill about it, and it just makes you feel so much more comfortable, and that makes you more open to sharing and making you more open to new experiences and meeting new people. And because the Moms Network is a support community, at all of our events, when people walk in, they know that, like, it's a safe space.
Well, can you describe a little bit more? I know the journey is a newer one in terms of kind of rolling out and building the support network that is the Mamas Network. What does it look like, and or will it look like? Because I know you're working on a permanent location. And what type of events are you doing? So just give us a little like rundown of how it looks and feels. Um,
Yeah, so, right now, I guess, like, if you asked me and, like well, right now, I do monthly and weekly events. So we do weekly support groups for moms and babies every Tuesday and Thursday, and then a monthly Saturday one for like the working parents that can't make it during the days. And then monthly, like every month, we do at least one or two all family activities. So, like the moms that we meet for the moms only things, we get to meet their entire family. And all of our family events are designed in a way that the kids can play with some sort of like organized activity, and the adults can like get like a mental load off and know that their kids are playing safe and they're like within eye, like we can see them, but there's only like one door where they can leave and, go in, go out. And so you can actually enjoy your time talking to other parents and, grabbing food, sharing, drinks. It's just a lot of fun. And we do at least one or two of those a month. Right now, we do one inside of Holmes campus, so parents can like play ping pong and cornhole, and then the kids get to play with Kiddo Kinetics, who comes in and does like active, like sports activities with them,
So
and
just
that's like
in as a pause, Holmes campus, for those of you who aren't located in Southeast Michigan, is a really cool, like, big open concept brewery and community gathering space, that's newer, that has a lot of well, when it's not, winter in Michigan, a room to run around to, but, uh, I it's just a nice, open, welcoming space.
Yeah, yeah, and they recently opened up their, like, event space, so it's
Mm,
just, like, this huge indoor
in a
space that's
warehouse,
just
yeah.
yeah, like a warehouse, and just has, like, ping pong tables and cornhole and just, like and they do, like, really random activities in there too, which is, like, really fun. So it's just like another really great space, and they are also wanting to be more inclusive to parents with the condition called children.
Yes, it's a permanent condition, isn't it?
It is a permanent condition, and that's why I was like, we need a support community for this condition.
On your website, you describe that this is a third place outside of home and work. Can you talk a little bit I just love that concept, and I haven't thought about it, but sometimes you can cram out that extra, the other places that you go when you change into, the world of parenting. So I
Yeah.
love that concept.
Yeah, it's all about your identity. And, the third space concept is like who you are, who your identity is. And because
Mhm.
your first place is your home. And so like for us, it's like our home life, our like mom life, our like wife life, home life. And you are a certain type of person for that mode. And your second mode is your work life or whatever you do to like keep busy. And so some stay-at-home parents, like their work life and their home life is the same, especially if you like work from home too. Or you go into an office and you have your own kind of like identity at work.
Mhm.
A lot of working parents would become new parents like myself. Like I felt more comfortable at work than I was at home with my newborn because I
Mhm.
didn't know what to do with my newborn, but I can handle work. I know work.
I've always been much more comfortable in my work identity than,
Yeah.
the journey as a parent.
Right, right. And so the third space is that like that space for you where you can go and just be yourself, not be mom, not be, director of this, not be responsible for anything else. It's just for you.
Mhm.
And post COVID, I think that's really eliminated a lot of third spaces or even
Mhm.
gotten people out of the habit of going to a third space. And so like third spaces traditionally have been, like churches, bars, restaurants, clubs, that kind of space, libraries, wherever you want to go. And when I started the Mamas Network, I, very quickly saw that there are so many great community locations, businesses, spaces. There's so much space, but they're all closed a lot of the times. And it's like, why not make these spaces more open? And just working with local partners, we were able to turn some of these locations into our mama's third spaces. And it becomes like a routine monthly thing so that they look forward to gathering, they look forward to going to this space, and they know that they're gonna like meet really great people and have great conversations.
I love it. Where are you going next? How are you so you've kind of collaborated and co-opted with, other, organizations or companies so that you can create these third spaces, these events. What's next for the Mamas Network? And I'm particularly interested in the co-working idea that you're building out.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. I mean, because of the great partnerships that I've been working with, I've been able to do so much within the last year and to serve as many parents as possible. And we started a pilot program in October of last year in 24, a co-work with on-site childcare concept where you bring your kid, your little kid, like baby to up to 5, basically like under elementary school aged, and you leave them in this like playroom, and then you go to a different room next door and you work. And that's the concept. And
It's kind of
it
like is it like I mean, you at the gym where there's
Yeah,
a
it's like the gym. You
yeah.
drop your kid off in the play area and then you go work out for an hour or two and then you pick your kid up and leave. And and if your kid like needed you, they find you and then you can like take care of your child. And yeah, it's the same concept except that you're working. And because of that, um because parents are on site, we are not limited and restricted by all of the childcare licensing fees and rules and regulations. And that's what really kills the affordability aspect of childcare. But because the parents are on site and they are there to help take care of their kid when needed, we don't need to do that because they're there. And that's how we're able to make it really affordable. So the next step is I've signed a lease and we are moving into a permanent space of our own to offer co-working with childcare full day, full time. So it'll
Amazing.
be Monday through Friday. The hours to start will be 9 to 4. I hope to eventually open earlier because I know, especially the parents of young children, they're probably awake at 5:30 in the morning. And so they're all looking to like, like if I can get some work done at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. and be done with my day by like 11 or 1, like that would be wonderful. That would be so flexible and that would be a really great option. So we're currently in the process of getting the space ready and we will be open in April. So within like a month from this recording.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
When we talk about, so since we're a money podcast as well, talk to me about the economics of that type of arrangement versus, full-time childcare where you drop your kid off and leave.
Yeah. So full-time childcare, like I was just looking at my own daycare bill. I have a 3-year-old in full-time daycare and it's $317 a week. And
Sounds about
we're
right.
at
That's actually
and we're
quite
at
reasonable.
I was gonna say we're at one of the most like reasonably priced daycares, like one of the lowest priced daycares,
Mhm.
and it's still 317 a week. And thankfully my daycare is one of those daycares that like never closes and they have like their own generator, so we're just so grateful. But there's so many daycares I'm finding that close on the same schedule as the public school schedule.
Right? Mhm.
And the public school schedule closes like all the time.
Yes.
Me as a parent of like a 6-year-old now have learned that they close all the time. And then when they close, what are you supposed to do? You still work. And so like little break, my little break concept is gonna help parents of with older kids too, that they have like an option. It's like a backup, a supplemental care. Um, so my membership range. So my daily passes, if you just want to drop in that day, it's $50 and it's a day pass just for the entire day. Compare that to like if you last minute needed a babysitter to watch your kid all day, that's like minimum $20-$25 an hour.
Oh,
And
yeah,
like
and
depending
you
on
can't
how
find one.
right, and you can't find one last minute. Exactly. Like even if you had the money, the availability is scarce.
Mhm.
Um so it's a $50 day pass. And then for those parents that want to either support us more consistently or need something more consistent and don't really want to think about it, like do that daily, like, oh, I got to do this today. We offer memberships. And it starts at, there's 2 membership levels. One is a $99 a month level, which gives you 1 free day pass. And then subsequent day passes are just $25.
Oh,
And
wow.
then the other one is $299 a month. So basically for $300 a month, you get unlimited access. And so you just reserve ahead of time and then it's just free after that. And there's so many other benefits to it. I mean, in addition to being a part of a wonderful community, we also will have a parents' den, which is like a parents only space for like group therapy, venting together, taking naps, working on a couch. Like you can do whatever you want in this space. And then we also are going to have a support and therapy room, which one of 2 things can happen. Either a provider can go in that space and use it for one-on-one consultations or therapy sessions. And if the client needed child watch, we have child watch during the day. Or a member and a parents can use that room for their own like virtual like telehealth or virtual therapy or a couples therapy. And if they need a child watch during that time, we have it during the day. And so it's just, it's a parent centric center. And so everything is really focused on like, how can we help you be awesome because you are now a parent?
I feel like you're gonna be overrun. I'm assuming there are limits when, like, you have to reserve in advance so you know that the head count is right or things like
Right.
that. Because snow days would be like everybody's on it, right?
Yes, so we have max capacities, and that's why we require everyone to reserve. And so, like with membership, on unlimited membership, you get to reserve like way ahead of time. The 99 membership, you can reserve. like I think like 1 or 2 days ahead of time, and then like the drop-ins are just the day of.
I love it. You're filling a need that we have so much. There's just unlimited demand, and
Yes.
it there's so many compromises people make to make the money of parenting work. Um, we were discussing as we were preparing for the call. I really feel like women tend to be at that fulcrum point where they are the ones who kind of give, whether it's less career ambition, or I mean, there's still the same ambition, but just, making choices that may limit career expansion and thus their expansion of human capital, decisions to switch from full-time work to part-time, or staying home. And there's no judgment to that if that's your plan, but if that is a compromise and thus makes you more vulnerable, if there's a change in your relationship status, or you have additional needs when it comes to caring for aging parents and things like that. There's just so much you take on that is just kind of, there's no conversation. It's not a, "Oh, here's the trade-offs." It's just like, "I guess this what is what I'll do." And then we see that ongoing for women who live longer than men and then have, diminished economic power in some cases because of it.
Right.
So I feel like
Yeah,
you're
and
giving
that's
space for more.
right. Right. Yeah, it's like I want to support you so that if you feel like I want women to be empowered. I want them to feel like they have options and that they don't have to make these like huge sacrifices that are everlasting uh impacts on their future life and their future earnings because of it. And so I'm really hoping that this nonprofit that I'm building will be there to support parents, support the women, so that they don't they just have more options and then they can fully, be what they want to do.
I love that. It is all about options because there's everybody has different right fit for what they choose, but if you don't have options, that's just the
Right.
tragic part.
Right.
Um, Tell me a little bit about, because I have so many clients, and I'm sure listeners too, who have a dream or an idea, and they're like, "This really would be a great to be a nonprofit." But there are so many logistics when it comes to running a nonprofit, getting it off the ground. How do you fund it? And there's a lot
Hmm.
of the operations are very, in many cases, if done effectively, entrepreneurial. It's like running a business.
Yes.
So tell me about that journey. How did you get started, and what have been the surprises, either positive or negative?
Yeah. When I first started doing this, it took me a bit to realize that I was being an entrepreneur. Like it didn't occur to me that like, oh, I started a nonprofit business. Like, oh, it's a business. Like I'm still an entrepreneur. And then I quickly learned that entrepreneurship is like terrifying and exciting at the same time.
It sure
But
is. It's a journey,
um,
right?
it is such a journey, and that itself also I've found my community of like other moms who are entrepreneurs. So it's been really nice to like meet those people. But when first thinking about like this business and what I wanted to do, deciding whether or not it was going to be a for-profit or a not for profit was a very big important decision. And I think a lot
Mhm.
of people when deciding on whether or not to create like to create your own for-profit business or a nonprofit, the biggest thought and I think the differentiator is like, why are you doing this? Like, what is the business? Like, what are you meant to achieve? And I wanted to create a nonprofit because I wanted something to last beyond just me. And I also wanted it to be a nonprofit because um, I wanted to make sure that it was mission first. So I think philosophically, the biggest difference between a nonprofit and a for-profit company is nonprofit, your main priority is to serve the people, and then your any secondary priorities would be to find the money to serve the people. And a for-profit is your primary goal is to make profit, and then your secondary, if you want to, is to like do good and like serve people and like like do good for your community. But those are all secondary. Your first priority is still to make money. Um, and I like the nonprofit philosophy where like I need to make money to serve people. And I think like when you start it with that right mindset, we're going to be able to help a lot of people. Um, but then the second part about starting a nonprofit business, I think, is it would be really great to have for-profit business experience, because I think the biggest pitfalls in nonprofit organizations and management is everyone starts a nonprofit organization with the right intentions. They all want to do it because they want to help people. There's like a need they're filling. So there's a lot of passion. A lot of times it personally affected them, and that's why they wanted to start the nonprofit. And so there might not be as much like business savviness
Yeah,
or business
operational, like,
experience.
yeah.
Right. Like the nitty-gritty, like what actually runs the business. And I encounter a lot of nonprofit business owners who just want to do the work, but like the little stuff that's like annoying but like really important and crucial to like the future like longevity of your nonprofit, like that's the stuff that they're not very good at, and nor do they even want to do. But they struggle with like having the funds to pay someone to do it versus them just kind of like doing it themselves.
Makes sense. For your nonprofit kind of vision over time, will you obviously there's people are paying to do your services, and then two other traditional sources of funding for nonprofits are either donation initiatives, fundraising, as well as grants.
Mhm.
Are you kind of going to be all three legs of that stool, or is more of the membership kind of driving the revenue of the organization? What's
Yeah. Well, the hope is that the co-working will be the main revenue source for the nonprofit, and that kind of becomes the like hub. And I plan on doing expansions into like opening up multiple centers in like different neighborhoods where there's a lot of need.
Mm.
So and then at that center, then that center becomes the Mama's Network hub as well. And so we will be providing, like the same supportive services and gatherings for the parents in that area. And then so like any kind of donations and sponsorship, those like traditional fundraising is to fundraise for all of our supportive services, making a little break even more accessible and reach even further the parents that cannot afford. Like, we have parents that can afford it because they work. We have parents that are part-time, so they know that it's an investment. But then there's also the stay-at-home parents that have a really hard time justifying time for themselves, but they
Mhm.
need it as well.
So
um
true.
and and supporting them. And there's a lot of like stay-at-home parents that they're thinking about taking that next step of going back to work, or doing something else. But it's that chicken or egg. It's like, do I find a job and then find daycare, or do I like get care and then find a job? Because you can't do it at the same
You can't
time.
go to interviews with your kid on your hip, right? Like,
Right, exactly. And so like at our pilot program here, we had so many parents come in to do job interviews, to do
mhm.
virtual job interviews, and prepare for it. And then like I want to be able to provide that for more and more parents, and to do it for people that cannot afford that $50 day pass, for example.
Well, kudos for being an integral link in a more healthy, holistic, welcoming community. I also love that you're location based, because I think so many things have, and I'm definitely guilty of this, kind of reverted to virtual, which I think is a blessing in many cases. But there
Yes.
is something to be said about having that friend that you can meet up for coffee or book group. And I know you're facilitating that with the programs that you do. And there's so much emphasis on well being in your mission.
Yeah, and another emphasis on is just like it's all very chill. Like I have a sign whenever you come to any of our events, the sign says, "Yay, you made it."
That's all you needed to do. Just get
That's all
there,
you needed to
right?
do. You just needed to make it, because like it's so like that's the hardest part about this period of our lives with young kids, is like it's just getting out the door is so hard. There's so
Let
many
me tell you as a
barriers.
parent of tweens and teens that it may not be
It'll get
different, and The
Right,
degree of difficulty
exactly.
in many cases increases in certain aspects of life. So,
Yeah, exactly. And so like all of the all our whole like mantra and like philosophy here is like we are here for you. And so like when wherever you are in your journey, like we'll always be here. There was a mom that I haven't seen in months. And I saw her yesterday at one of the events that I saw her at. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in so long." She was like, "Oh, like I had surgery, I had this came up, that came up. It's just been crazy." And she's like, "But I finally made it." And I'm like, "Yes, you did.
yeah,
And I'm so glad you're here."
that's amazing. And when you have that connection, you can always open that door back if you have that chill
Right.
existence where it's not like, what have you done for me
Yeah.
lately? It's more like, I'm so
Yeah,
excited to see you.
exactly. And there's a lot of I think I also see there's a lot of fear from like negative experiences of past relationships where people have just kind of like you've kind of like lost friends because time has passed.
Hmm.
But in like this journey of like parenthood, like time moves at weird speeds, but like it's just really comforting for these moms and these dads to know that like we'll always be there for you and there'll always be a familiar face and we'll always welcome you in. We're never going to be like, "Oh, we haven't seen you in a while. Like time has passed.
You're off the
You're out of the loop
list.
now."
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, and if I could just say, I think one of the messages that I'd like our listeners to hear for whatever stage of life you are in, whatever your identity is, whether you're a parent or not, is investing in yourself has rewards. And it also, in some cases, you may need to have a conversation with a financial professional, with your spouse or partner, with your community to make that investment possible because while you have amazing rates for membership, it still is a cost. But you considering your money to be a resource and knowing that that resource is there not only to pay the bills but also to invest in your own well-being, I think is the modern money concept that it's really important for you to understand, because your well-being is probably the most valuable part of wealth, even more so than what your bottom line is and things like that.
Absolutely.
Ariel, where can people find you in the Mamas Network, follow along and or, check it out?
Yeah, so themamasnetwork.org. You can also follow us on Instagram, which is the Mamas Network underscore A2. And Facebook and LinkedIn are both the Mamas Network.
I love it. So we're so excited to see what's next for the Mamas Network. I know we'll be saying we had a conversation with you way back when as you're expanding and really spreading this message of acceptance and investing back in yourself to more families over time.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for listening to the Women's Money Wisdom Podcast. If you found value in this episode, the best way you can support the podcast is to forward an episode to a friend or leave a review. Go to pearlplan.com and the podcast link to get all the resources and links mentioned.